And we are live. Welcome to Show Me Your Pick. This is Fruitcake Tony. It is 4:05 on the East Coast, Roxborough, North Carolina time. July 11th, 2020. Hope everyone's doing good. We got a heck of a show for you today. Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin. You're going to see some awesome Led Zeppelin memorabilia, some cool Led Zeppelin guitar picks. Steve's got some wild Led Zeppelin stories um, of years past doing interviews with them. We got a giveaway. I got a nice Jimmy Page guitar pick I'm going to give somebody today. Um, let's bring Steve in. Steve.
Hey, Kenny, how you doing? Hey, listen, man, I'm having some technical difficulties over here. I cannot hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me?
No.
Huh?
As soon as you went to the music, when you came back, I couldn't hear you anymore.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me?
No.
All right. Let me. How about now? Every, everybody can hear me out there?
Let me, Tony, I'm going to.
Why don't you jump
Sandra
out?
had a good idea. I'm going to log out and then I'll come back in. Okay. Okay. So I'm going here.
Okay. All right. So while we're waiting on Steve, let's see who we got in here. Edwin Crane, Dwight Halface, Eddie Van Haskell, Amanda Coombs. How you doing? All right, let's see if we got Steve back. All right, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that, man. I don't know what that was.
You're good.
Good.
So, Steve, how's your week been, dude?
Good week, man. We were talking. I have a big collection of backstage passes coming. All of these intact tickets, a lot of stuff from the 70s, some really cool ticket stubs, a bunch of posters, some real cool kind of 80s posters. So we're looking forward to getting that stuff. And what else? Yeah, it's getting hot here. Got the fans going.
Yeah.
And
Here too.
Yeah,
Here
always.
too. Yeah, it has been a hot week here, mid-90s all week. A little bit of rain, but yeah, mid-90s. It's a cooker here this summer in Carolina.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So, Steve, Led Zeppelin today.
Who?
I want to show everybody what we're going to give away. This is what we're giving away later. We'll have one Led Zeppelin trivia question. And this is from the 1994 Coverdale Page tour. And that'll be coming up a little later on in the show. Yeah. So, Steve, you're a big Led Zeppelin fan. When did they come up on your radar screen?
Zepp actually came up on my radar screen really early. It is sometime early 1969. I'm 16 years old. Obviously, I'm still living at home with my parents in Culver City. And I mean, I've been listening to a lot of music. I had been collecting albums for a time. Excuse me. I certainly heard of Led Zeppelin, but I really had no idea what they sounded like, or well, nobody had any idea what they sounded like. You know, I mean, I think I was vaguely aware of Jimmy Page. I mean, from the Yardbirds. I mean, we all knew him from the Yardbirds, but you know, and we probably knew that he had this new band called Led Zeppelin, but other than that, nobody knew anything. So I remember it's one afternoon, and my brother's friend and my friend, a very talented musician uh, named Greg Derschlag, comes over, and he's got this album with the black and white Zeppelin graphic on the cover. And he says, "Man, this first Zeppelin record. You got to listen to this." So I remember my parents had like one of these big stereo consoles in our like living room. It was like a big piece of furniture, you know, and the top would open up, a big wooden top, and there was the turntable in there, and then underneath, you know, there were like doors that would pull apart, and there was albums in there. My dad was a big classical guy, so he had some classical records in there. But the thing is, my brother and I were never supposed to touch the stereo, which we didn't. We never touched it. I actually had my own this like little portable GE thing, you know, the plastic lid would come up, and you know, you put the album on and put the arm over. But we thought, okay, the Zeppelin record, you know, my parents went home. We're gonna use their stereo, so we put it on, and you know, we swing the arm over, and you know, we hear the crackling, and the first thing you hear is da 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 da, you know, good times, bad times, and it just blew my head off. It was like nothing I could have ever imagined. It was a rewriting of everything. You know, it was as heavy as anything could ever be, but it was bluesy, and the arrangements were amazing, and Page's playing and his guitar orchestrations and the way he was putting together parts, it was just pretty unbelievable to me. And I remember, you know, kind of playing in cover bands with my brother and friends around town. And in fact, Greg, who's a great bass player, you know, we were doing Zeppelin songs, you know, Communication Breakdown and, you know, Good Times, Bad Times. So let's fast forward about 3 years. I have just started writing. And in fact, I think the very first kind of little publication I wrote for was this softcore porn magazine. It's actually a newspaper called the LA Star. You know, you could buy them out of the, you know, vending machines. You know, you put in a quarter and you lift it up and you pull out an LA Star. LA Star was known mainly for the massage ads in the back, you know. So, I mean, it was, you know, yeah, I mean, it was mildly risque. It was more of a trashy rag than anything. I mean, the writing was pretty horrendous, but it covered local events. And I remember picking up a copy and seeing that they had a little music section. And this guy, Mark Yandel, was a music editor. So I had gone to see T-Rex at the Hollywood Palladium. And I had sent that review to everybody, all the magazines. I sent it to Guitar Player, even though Guitar Player didn't run live reviews. That's how dumb I was. You know, and Circus and Cream, you know, everybody turned it down. I got rejection letters, which I still have. But I got a thing from the LA Star, or maybe, I don't know, a couple % of the road. I got a copy of this newspaper wrapped up. I thought it was just a throwaway, you know, an advertising thing. And I take off the wrapping and open it up, and I see it's the LA Star. And I'm going, why would they send me the LA Star? And I'm looking through it, and oh my God, there is my review of T-Rex. So, I mean, I'm just like blown away. I mean, no money, but there's my name, and that was like it for me. So I contact Mark Yandell, say, hey, Mark, you used my T-Rex story. Do you want other stories? He goes, yeah, send stuff in as you get it. So I remember doing a West Bruce and Lang review, live review, also from the Palladium, and I sent that to him, and he used that. So right around, this must be, I think this is 72, June, July 72, he contacts me and says, hey, do you want to interview Jimmy Page? Let me back up a step here. Mark was in a band called Marquis de Sade. They were actually a very good band. Marquis de Sade was kind of a cross between Zeppelin and Alice Cooper. I mean, they were a really good local band. They never did anything, but they were a good band. So, Mark somehow knew some people. I'm jumping chronology here. Later in 72, I would go to England with my buddy. We were going to hitchhike around Europe for 3 months. And Mark actually gave me names and phone numbers of tons of people. I mean, management for Joe Cocker and Queen and Paul McCartney. He got me hooked up with Sounds. I became a correspondent for Sounds. So Mark knew a lot of people. So rewind back to 72. Mark says, do you want to interview Jimmy Page? Well, I mean, what do you say to a question like that? Yes, Mark, I'd like to interview Jimmy Page. So he says, okay, man. He's staying at the Continental Hyatt House. You go see him on Thursday afternoon. And I'm still a bit incredulous. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm jumping off subject. Yeah, man, the Weasels beat her with a rake. That's Greg. So I'm thinking, why in the hell wouldn't Mark want to interview Jimmy Page himself? But I'm thinking, hey, man, he can set up an interview with Jimmy Page. So I think it's on a Wednesday, the day before I'm supposed to go to the Hyatt House. He says, hey, listen, man, Page can't do a thing in person. Can you do a phoner tomorrow, Thursday? I go, sure, man. So no problem. So I have my questions together. And I call him at the appointed time. And I recognize the number as belonging to the Hyatt House because the person who answered said Continental Hyatt House. So I knew I was calling the Hyatt House. I said, hi, can I must have said, can I speak with Jimmy Page? And they put me through. Thinking back on it now, there's no way that Page would have, had a room under his own name. So maybe I had some pseudonym. I can't remember. So they say, sure, we're going to put you through Jimmy Page. So I'm waiting, and hi, this is Jimmy Page. I go, hi, Jimmy, Steve Rosen, Mark Yandell, set up this interview. He goes, yeah, Steve, what can I do for you? So there I am interviewing Jimmy Page. And I had questions, this was like one of the first interviews I'd ever done. And this is Jimmy Page. I mean, there's no internet. I mean, I think I asked him about the Beck's Bolero, where he played kind of that rhythm guitar on Beck's Bolero with Jeff Beck and Keith Moon. And I asked him about Robert Plant was a big Tolkien fan, because some of his lyrics were like taken from Tolkien's book. And I'd asked him about that. I think I asked him about the Joe Cocker song he did with Joe Cocker, with A Little Help from My Friends. Various questions. I think the interview maybe lasted for 20 minutes. So, again, this is 1972. I am using literally, I think it's like a $4 cassette player I had that I bought from a garage sale that was so bad that the lid that you use to close it, if you hit the open button, the lid would flip off because the hinges were broken. So I had to physically keep my hand on the lid, or the lid would lift up, thus causing the tape to unspool and go all over the fucking place, which did happen, let me tell you. But because it was a phoner, I thought, how the hell am I going to record a phone conversation? I had never done a phone conversation. I had literally never done an interview in my life. So I don't know if I talked to my brother. I don't know what I did, but I ended up using like this little suction thing. So, one end of the suction would go on the mouthpiece where the voice of the person on the other end was coming through. And the other end, I think, was a RCA plug that went into the input or the microphone jack of the cassette player. So I'm sitting there, I'm all ready, man. I've got the suction thing. Now notice where I have the suction thing, because I didn't know this until fucking after the fact. I have the suction thing up by my earpiece, by the ear thing. So I'm thinking, no, that's where I'm hearing. I'm sorry, guys. I got it backwards. It's supposed to go up at the top because that's where you're hearing the person's voice. I put it down below where I'm talking. So we do the interview, I hang up, I rewind hurriedly, so I hear my question, hi, Jimmy, so can you tell me what it was like playing with Joe Cocker on the, with a little help from my friends session? And I'm waiting, and there's nothing, there's silence. So I turn up the volume, and there's nothing. So I don't panic, not quite yet. I fast forward to my next question. So Jimmy, I know that Robert is a big, a J.R. Tolkien fan. Where did those lyrics come from? Silence, silence, silence. All I have on that cassette are my questions, because I put that suction fucking thing up to the mouthpiece where I'm talking and not where Jimmy's voice comes in. My brother walks by, says, yeah, what are you doing? I go, yeah, I just interviewed Jimmy Page. He goes, really? I go, yeah, take a listen. And I play it for him, and he hears my question, and then there's silence, and he rolls on the floor because he knows what I did. And he goes, you didn't do that. I go, yeah, I did it. So what I did is I reconstructed the interview from memory, trying to remember what Jimmy had said. I got so disgusted, I took the cassette and tossed it in the trash. Now, here's the real caveat. To this day, I'm not 100% positive whether I was actually speaking to the real Jimmy Page. Part of me thinks that Mark Yandell was a smart guy, wanted kind of publicity so much for kind of like the LA Star and for his band and blah, 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 that he somehow faked me calling the Hyatt House. He gave me some number, even though I'm positive it was the Hyatt House number, where he answered the phone or had some woman answer the phone. And then when I was supposed to be talking to Jimmy Page, it was him talking to me in an English accent. So I don't even know. A heartbreaker indeed. And it's like, oh my God, I cannot believe I did that. And I actually reached out to Mark. Mark has a Facebook page. He's all about Marquis de Sade. And I've actually reached out to Mark twice and say, Mark, Steve Rosen, you got to answer a question, man. Was that you I spoke to, or did you really arrange an interview with me and Jimmy Page? So to this day, I don't really know. I really do believe actually that it was Jimmy Page, because like I said, he had names and addresses of, he had the name and address of this guy, Tony Brainsby. Tony was doing publicity for Wings. This is 73, the first little tour they did of like colleges where they just kind of roll up and take out the gear and play. where I actually interviewed Paul McCartney as one of the first interviews I ever did. And he had tons of these contacts that he turned me on to. A very important guy in terms of my career. So I believe that was Jimmy Page. And it's, yeah, the interview that never was. So there's my first Led Zeppelin story, Tony.
So, Steve, when John Bonham died in 1980, how many times up till then had you interviewed them?
Well, well, if you count that first time with Page, and then in '77, excuse me, that's when I went out on the road with Zepp. We spent 11 days, and I'm not going to tell that story here. We're going to save that for part 2 of an upcoming podcast here. So up until then, it had only been the one time. I would interview Robert Plant. I think it was somewhere around 81, 82. I think it was his first or second solo record. Zepp had broken up by then. And he was cool. Robert was a very cool guy. I think I did another. No, that was it. And then in '86, I interviewed Jimmy Page for the second time. The cover of Guitar World, which was another kind of an interesting story. Guitar World sent me to Daytona Beach, Florida, to interview Jimmy. He was with the firm then, Paul Rogers, and the editors, I got lucky, and the editor sent me out to do that one. And the same thing happened on that '86 tour, waiting to interview Jimmy, as happened on the '77 tour. That is, I had to wait several days before actually being able to sit down with Jimmy. So, I'm fearful of leaving the hotel room, because I know the second I leave the hotel room, they're going to call and say, Jimmy, we'll talk to you now. So basically, I think for 2 days, I was a captive in the hotel room. I think I did see the show the second night, and I mean, they were good. I mean, it was a good band. I mean, it wasn't Led Zeppelin. The songs weren't great. They had Radioactive, which is a pretty cool little Page riff, but I don't know, left me a little cold. But so, yeah, I think the third day I'm there, I get the call, and Jimmy, we'll talk to you now. So I walk down to Jimmy's room, and Tim Martin meets me at the door. Tim is Jimmy's guitar tech. Very, very nice guy. So he was sitting in on the interview. So I sit down and say hi to Jimmy. And I may have mentioned that, hey, Jimmy, I was the writer who was out with you guys in '77. And I did the cover story and guitar player on you guys. And actually, whether I said it or not, I mean, I don't think he remembered me. And so, which wasn't surprising. I mean, I didn't expect him to remember me. I wanted him to remember me, but I don't think he did remember. So we sit down, and from the first question, it is like trial by fire, an acid test, holding my feet over the coals, just beat me about the head with a phone book, He was, oh my God. I don't know if he was in a particularly bad mood or what. So I think the first question I asked was something like, let me back up. I like to ask A-B questions, compare and contrast, So, hey, you were in this band before Led Zeppelin. What was that like? How was the Yardbirds different, Jimmy, than Zeppelin? And, did you have to dial up different guitar tones? And, so it's not a yes/no answer. it's hopefully a question that makes them think a little bit and, get into a little bit of, a little bit of thoughtful analysis. So the first question was something like, so Jimmy, how different is it working with John Paul Jones, with Paul Rogers than it was working with Robert Plant, So I'm thinking, yeah, that's going to make them think, and, how it's different because, Paul plays guitar, and, do they, write songs together on guitars, because obviously Robert didn't play guitar, and their approach to lyrics is different. So I thought this could be a good response. And Paige kind of sits there and looks at me, says, "You fucking idiot! What do you think? Of course it's fucking different. What do you think? How do you think it's different?" So I'm sitting there, kind of plastered against my chair, trying to breathe, going, "Well, Jimmy, how's it different?" So now he's asking me a question. I'm going, "Oh, Jesus God. Well, I don't know, Jimmy. I mean, they write different kinds of lyrics, and that kind of. I didn't know what I said to him, and so he goes off again, and he goes ballistic. So now it's like I'm afraid to ask him anything, even the most innocuous question. We were talking about some of the great guitar players, that you could identify, with just a couple notes. And I think I might have said David Gilmour, and he had come up with some people. And, I said, obviously Jeff is there. He goes, "You fucking idiot. Of course Jeff is there. What do you think, you fucking moron?" I mean, I'm trying to say that, yes, Jeff Beck is one of these guys, and he's jumping on me like I'm not understanding my own question. I mean, it was weird. And I am developing a little tension in my temples. Back in the day, I was susceptible to migraines. And if any of you have ever had migraines, you know that it is about the worst pain on this planet. People kill themselves over migraines. And when I'd get a migraine, it was just a pain beyond description. I mean, it was horrific. So I can feel this tension starting. And yeah, so I'm trying to keep the headache at bay. So I start asking him about Van Halen. And I mean, I keep hammering him with Van Halen. I don't know why. I'm just trying to get a reaction from him. I mean, I'm a little kind of upset at this point. So I'm asking him about, "Hey, are you aware of, Eddie Van Halen?" He goes, "Well, I'm aware that he has a really nice smile." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, no, Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy, Eddie. Yeah, he's done some things, and he made some, fairly promising, positive comments." So I asked him again about how, Eddie really is kind of a modern. I mean, he is the guy. I mean, he is the guy who's really rewritten guitar. And then he says to me, he goes, "You're really good friends with Eddie, aren't you?" I go, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "Well, why do you want to know this stuff?" "I don't know, man, because I want to know." I mean, I was pissed at this point. So I kept asking him about Van Halen. And Tim Martin, I could look over at him when Jimmy would jump on me. Even Tim Martin was cringing. And he would jump in once in a while, and he'd kind of answer questions if I was, strictly asking about some gear or that kind of thing. I mean, I think he genuinely felt bad for me. And so that goes on, and then we kind of get done. By then, I have a migraine, and my head is horrendous. And I think I'm going to kind of throw up right there on the rug in front of Jimmy. So we get done, and I go back to the room, and I do get sick, and I always take aspirin with me, so I pop a bunch of aspirin and drink some coffee. and the headache keeps getting worse. Neil Preston was going to do a photo session, so I wanted to be there for that. I wanted to see it. So they found some room, and Jimmy did the photo session. And yeah, Jimmy was kind of chummy, you know, and there's a couple pictures of Jimmy and I, and with my arm around him and his arms around me, and he's holding his telly, and yeah, it's all good. So every couple hours while I was there during those 3 days, Guitar World just called me on the phone. Hey man, have you done the interview? Have you done the interview? We're holding the cover. Have you done the interview? Have you done the interview? No, man, I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet. Finally, as soon as I got done with it, I called them. They go, oh God, that's great. That's great. Listen, there is no time for you to fly back to California to write the story. Yeah, there it is. Why I was wearing those freakishly tight shorts is beyond me. I have no idea. But so they said, listen, there's no time for you to fly back to California. You need to fly right out here to New York and write the story out here. We literally need it, like, you know, right now. So I flew to New York, and I remember going to the Guitar World offices, and I mean, this is pretty cool. I mean, Guitar World was, you know, certainly with Guitar Player, one of the two kind of biggest, you know, guitar mags in the country. So it was pretty cool. And I mean, I was kind of the, you know, conquering hero returned, you know, and hey man, they're so cool, it's so cool. So I remember for hours, and it took hours, I'm sitting there transcribing this interview. And Page has this very thick Birmingham accent. And again, he doesn't speak very loud. So it's like, he's like talking like this. And I thought he was saying. So anyway, it was a tough transcription. And there were some words I could not make out. I would say, hey, guys, can you help me with this? And they put on the headphones, and all the writers and secretaries would come over, you know, trying to figure out what this was. And I finally got it done. And I remember the next morning, I mean, it was like 4 or 5 in the morning. We went out to like this this bagel factory, this place that made bagels fresh. And they had just come up with all these fresh bagels, cinnamon raisin, which are my favorite bagels. And I remember just eating, you know, this bagel, you know, we're in the middle of Manhattan and the sun's coming up. And I've just done a Jimmy Page cover story for Guitar World magazine. And I've got a great cup of hot coffee in my hand, you know. This is a moment, you know, we've talked about these moments before about Paul Rogers and I in the Triumph Herald. And again, you know, Jimmy Page and I, and me being on the Zepp airplane in '77. And this is a moment, you know, for me. And yeah, it was great. And actually, when that interview came out, I was actually pretty pleased with that. And I actually left all that stuff in there. I was going to edit it out where, you know, Page is cussing at me and jumping all over me. I said, fuck it. You know, that's what it is, and that's who he is. And he wasn't a very nice person. I mean, I'll be honest. And he really didn't like journalists in general. So I left it in, and the magazine loved that stuff. And yeah, so there it is. Those are kind of my Zepp stories. I actually would interview John Paul Jones years later, and John Paul Jones did remember me. I actually had some great interviews with John Paul back in '77, and he was great, and he remembered me. And yeah, man, Led Zeppelin. I mean, what else can you say about him? I mean, they made some, you know, kind of so-so records towards the end there. You know, Zeppelin were supposed to retire after Bonham's death, and you know, who am I to say? But they didn't. They didn't retire after saying they would. So I don't know about those post Bonham shows, but hey, you know, that's just me. So there you go.
Did you what was your take on Jimmy's after projects after '86 in the firm? He did a Page Plant about the same time. He made a record, and hit the road with the Black Crows. Um, Yeah. You
Yeah, that's
interview them?
no, I never did.
No.
I may have interviewed Coverdale about that years after the Page Coverdale thing. I mean, the Page Coverdale thing was okay. It was actually it was pretty good. I thought it was actually better than the firm. Um, and the Black Crow thing, yeah, I mean, Jimmy was kind of along for a free ride. I mean, he liked those guys. They were great players. Obviously they had a huge love for Zeppelin. So for him, that was kind of that was a no-brainer. But that was cool. Um, I mean, after Led Zeppelin, what do you do? I mean, I know for all those years he tried to get Robert back together, and they did those reunion shows. Hey, who am I to say? I mean, to walk away from that much money, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. But yeah, so yeah.
What did you think when they did the reunion show in '07?
To be honest, I'm not that familiar with it.
They they did a show. Um, Jimmy, Robert, John Paul Jones, Jason on drums at the O2 Arena in London in '07.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was
yeah,
okay. It's all right. I mean, Jason's a good drummer. I mean, he'll be the first to admit he's not his dad, but I guess that's about as close to John as you could get. And yeah,
that
I mean,
show in London, um, they had 20 million online requests.
yeah, that's what they say.
Um,
I mean, I'm sure there were a ton of requests. I mean, 20 million. I don't know, man.
that's what
I
they
mean,
say.
even if there was 5 million, which I find believable. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, arguably, one of the you know most famous bands in the world. I mean, again, for them to say no to the kind of money that must have been guaranteed to them for the reunion tour and that one-off show. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah. They made a live album out of that show also.
yeah,
Um,
well, that's not surprising.
Celebration Day. Yeah.
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 So what's going on?
Let me show everybody this, Steve. If I can hold it up here.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So, Steve, let's see who's out here and wants to win this Jimmy Page guitar pick.
Cool.
Um, Let me go ahead and show it again here. All right. So this is what's up for grabs, and that's from '94 right there.
Yeah, I'm not sure, man.
Yeah, that's '94 there. All right, let me get back. Okay, trivia time. One question about Led Zeppelin. The first correct answer that we see is the winner. If you win, go to my YouTube page about section at the bottom. The email me your name and address. I'll mail you out this nice guitar pick. So, okay, everybody ready? Here is your question. Of Led Zeppelin's 8 studio albums, how many went to #1 in the US? All right, here comes some answers incorrect. Keep them coming, guys. And this is just how many went #1 on the US charts. Out of the 8 of them. All right, so we're all around it. Okay, we have a winner. Mr. Bent Tom for the second week in a row.
I gotta ask him, Tom, did you know that? Or did you look it up? Either way, it's cool, man.
All right, very nice, Tom. Go to my YouTube page.
Huh.
Send it to Sandra again. Okay, I will do that. I certainly will. I certainly will.
Cool, man. Let's call you guest. Nice.
There you go, Sandra. Couple of weeks in a row. All right. So we had lots of guesses. Now out of those 8 albums, Led Zeppelin 1 went to #7 and Led Zeppelin 4 went to #2. Yeah, a lot of #1s in there. A lot of #1s. Let's go.
I can't believe that fourth record didn't go to #1.
I know.
How is
I
that
know.
possible?
Well, they had a bunch. I think 6 on there at one time years ago. All right, so Steve, I want to show a couple of more of these. I'm kind of saving the rare ones for last.
It's cool.
All right, and here's the rarest one of the bunch, the John Paul Jones. And this was 82 in a project of his after Led Zeppelin. But these John Paul Jones are as you know, Steve, very hard to come by. Um,
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I actually had one of those picks, and I didn't know who it was. I couldn't read the signature. I got that from Steve Vai's guitar tech. Really nice guy. I'm trying to remember his name. Anyway, he had a bunch of picks, and I was going through, and he wanted to give me the picks, and I couldn't take these picks. I tossed him a few $100. And I'm looking through, and I see that one, and I go, "Who the hell?" And I realized what it was. I thought, "Oh shit, that's got to be a cool pick." But yeah, John Paul Jones had all those strange projects. Dia, I forget her name. Dia Diamata Gallus. I mean, these very strange, these kind of these avant-garde singers and things. And I think that's from that pick is from that period. Some of those solo things he was doing.
yeah. Let me take a moment here to recognize our lovely co-producer and moderator, Sandra Pokorney. And her show, The Communication Breakdown, is on in a couple of more hours here. So you got time to get a bite to eat and come back and watch Sandra and Gary in their show. And they got a good show lined up here this evening. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So, Steve, we have still lots and lots of Led Zeppelin stuff that we are going to save for a part two.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, otherwise, it would have been a very, very long show, and there's more stuff to show and more stuff to talk about. Um,
What is that? An ad for beer?
that's the Page Plant Cup
Oh,
that I've had
that's
since
cool.
'95. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. What else you got, Steve?
In terms of stories, in terms of
Yeah, you
interviews,
got anything else you want to share today?
I think I'm talked out for today. I think it's a little too hot for lengthy discourse today.
Gotcha. Well, everybody, we appreciate you stopping by here at Show Me Your Pick. Um, roll on back next Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Steve and me will be right here. We got a good band lined up next week. We're not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, but it's going to be a heck of a show next week. So, Steve, have a great week. We'll talk this week. Everybody, have a great week. Nice to see you. We will see you next week.